So welcome to another Sunday where we're particularly looking at Tonglen from the perspective of Khenchen Konchog Gyaltshen's poem. This is, I think, the fourth presentation on Khenchen's poem, and I'm going to go right to that so we can read it together. With a positive attitude of loving kindness and compassion, I give to the downtrodden beings of the six realms all my happiness and roots of virtue without reservation. With a manner of brave heart mind, I take into my mind stream every one of the qualities of abandonment and realization of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the three times. In samsara, from beginningless time through today, the sole cause bringing suffering is always my own self-fixation, fundamental non-knowing. I give this right away, right now, without a second thought. Knowing that all sentient beings of the three realms have been my mother, I recall their kindness, wish to repay their kindness, and connect to them with love. I generate compassion for them, then the mindset to attain enlightenment for their sake. I take all these mind trainings into the center of my heart without clinging or attachment. I give my entire bounty of resources and roots of virtues to these kind mothers. And in an authentic manner, like an illusion, like a mirage, I take on all their karmas, afflictions, and suffering. Negative conditions are spiritual teachers. Spirits and demons are emanations of conquerors. Sickness is a broom sweeping away defilements and obscurations. All sufferings are dharmata's waves. From these, the confusion of duality arises, and then various karmas begin to accumulate. Purify these in the transparent, non-referential experience of dharmata. So today, I'm going to speak on the line, spirits and demons are emanations of conquerors. And this it will segue into this week and next week, all sufferings are dharmata's waves. Purify these in the transparent, non-referential experience of dharmata. So this is very exciting because we all have those memories, wounds, or even current perceptions of people in our lives seeming to be like demons to us, seeming to be like monsters to us, giving us great difficulty and great harm. And today we're going to look at how in the world we work with this. So just in case, if everybody could make sure they're muted. So it's exciting to me because it's something I have pondered many, many times over and over again. And I just find it to be a very fruitful exploration every time. And I'm going to do it from the perspective of a very famous Milarepa story. And it's a story that I revisit over and over. And every time I revisit it, I get a different sense of its meaning for me. So you probably know the story, and I'm going to tell it from two perspectives this time. The first perspective is really quite simple. In the first perspective, the simple telling, Milarepa leaves his cave and he is, rinsing out his bowl or something. He has only one possession, his bowl, and then the rag that he ties around his waist. And he trips and breaks the bowl, and then the wind comes up and pulls away the vase. So he's distraught that, then there is, even what you think of as the bare necessities are gone. And he goes back to his cave, and in the cave are all of these demons. And they're just making noise and in the story, there's still some text in the caves and they're throwing all the pages, and he sees the demons there and he says, oh my, maybe if I teach them the Dharma, if I teach them a little bodhicitta, then maybe it will be okay, and they'll stop giving me such a hard time, and I'll have peace again in my practice. And so he teaches the Dharma and they just laugh at him. And then he thinks about it again and he says, okay, I give up. My house is your house. Do whatever you like. You're welcome here. Then half the demons go away. And still remaining is the chief demon, and he contemplates some more, and then he gets to the point where he can walk over to this demon and put his head into the mouth of the demon. And so from all of these perspectives, the demons become his teacher. When they laugh at him, when he teaches the Dharma, teaches bodhicitta, it's because he hasn't integrated the teachings really. And when he welcomes them, then they see that he has let go of some of his ignorance of perceiver and perceived. And so the main group disappear. And then the very last aspect, there is the chief demon, and he cultivates finally a fearlessness, such fearlessness that he can put his head into the mouth of the demon. And I contemplate this really all the time because I've always been fascinated that he can get to that point where he can totally let go of any kind of fear and really go into what he imagines is the most frightening and see that there's no separation with such clarity that he puts his head into the mouth of that demon. So all through life, we're perceiving outer circumstances as outer, and we're thinking things are happening to us, and we're not seeing the true nature of appearances, that appearances are the play of dharmata or dharmata's waves. So this morning, when I was contemplating this story, I went back to a more extensive biography of Milarepa instead of the simple translation, the more recent life of Milarepa that is much longer. And in this story, it's even more evident what's going on, and it's more of a conversation that he has. So, and it's more of a fully fledged movie. So he goes back to his cave, and it's like one of the zombie movies, the 84,000 demons, and they're every, kind of horrific vision you can imagine, with the flesh hanging off and the, just hysterically funny when you think about it. But if we imagine our fears and they seem real to us, we're meditating, and then all of a sudden our old wounds come up, or our battles with whatever we feel is our enemy. So 84,000 of them. And at this point in this biography, he is quite an experienced meditator. So he calls out to his guru, he calls out to the three roots, and essentially says, I trust in you, I take refuge in you, I know that you can dispel this, help me. And it's so interesting. The demons essentially say, we can see that Milarepa still has a fragment of conceptuality. There's still a sense that there is Milarepa, the demons, the guru, that there is something that needs to be dispelled from his mind. So what we're learning in this part of the story that is so intriguing is that we're seeking our own mind. And our own mind may be calling up all of these things, but they have no reality to them. And so the demons come back again to teach him. And they give him a teaching about realizing even more clearly the impermanence and lack of perceiver and perceived of an inherent reality. And so Milarepa contemplates this, and then with the understanding, the full understanding that his body is impermanent and one day he will die, and that there is no inherently existing perceiver and perceived, he says, it would be great in this moment if I could offer my body. So I offer you my body, just in the same way, if you're familiar in the Tibetan tradition with the chud practice, you know, if you're hungry, please go ahead. If you're thirsty, please go ahead. And then those demons go away and there are 5 left. And he goes into a conversation with those 5. And this is where he's essentially making them welcome by offering his body. If there's anything you need, take it. And then it comes down to the last teaching. And the last teaching the demons give, it isn't centered around one figure, Saringma, but it's 5, including Saringma. They give him a teaching on emptiness and help him to recall that, you know, all of these appearances have no substance. There is no perceiver and perceived. There is no hope and fear based in an inherent solid reality. There are only the conditions that are arising and the perception of his mind. And they encourage him to go further and purify his mind. And when he purifies his mind, and he gives a beautiful talk, you know, I'm ending self and other. Let there be no more grudges. Let there be no more resistance. Let there be no more fighting. Let's fully understand the teachings. Then when he accomplishes what he's been taught by Marpa, what he has been striving for in meditation, when he accomplishes that realization, then these horrific demons appear as goddesses and prostrate to him and ask for refuge and bodhicitta teachings, and say to him, we still have some suffering. Can you release us from this suffering? So it's really the most beautiful story with the most depth in it. And so we can contemplate these stories to really understand how we're holding our wounds, how we're holding our memories of difficulties. When we look at them through the lens of the Dharma, they have the power to really teach us, and they have the power when we contemplate them for us to experience an understanding of the Dharma authentically on our cushion. And as we sort of rub away the pain and experience one layer at a time as a Dharma truth, then that aspect that was tormenting us disappears, like the demon disappearing. And we can start to see that essentially these narratives that we've created now beyond the time when we may have been in danger, but the narrative that we're holding on, we can start to see that it's not a Dima, but it's actually Buddha coming in the form of this story to teach us. And we start to see the Buddha nature of each of the different voices in the story, each of the different characters in the story. In the same way, we see that it's all a reflection in the mirror of our mind, of our own Buddha nature. So it's not an easy journey, and it's not a painless journey to look at these stories and reflect on them that we carry as our difficult times. But they become, when we can apply the Dharma and integrate the Dharma, the great teachings of our life, because they are the vehicle through which we understand our life as a Dharma story. So the things that are most difficult for us and most painful for us, we may want to be really gentle and careful about how we work with that story. So we might start with the more simple ones, the ones that are appropriate for a beginning. And I'll give you a way an old friend of mine worked with it. A friend of mine in my 40s was my age now. So she was telling me that, she felt like she was coming near to death. So she asked Annie Pema, this is while I was at the monastery, her old and dear friend, Annie Pema, I haven't realized enlightenment yet. What can I do? I'm running out of time. And Annie Pema said, I want you to look at the thing that annoys you the most every single day. And I want you to see that person, that situation, as your teacher coming in the here and now to teach you. So Annie Palmo thought about it, and Annie Palmo had a bird feeder that she loved and flowers that she just loved. And every day she would fill the bird feeder, and every day the squirrels would come, and every day she would get angry and run outside with a broom and chase away the squirrels. So she started a practice that every day the squirrels would come, and instead of getting angry, she would say, I prostrate to you, here you are, my teacher coming to teach me right in this very moment how to understand the arising of anger and the liberation of anger. And, now I can look back with such a sense of humor, and she's no longer living, with a sense of sort of poignancy of that actually became a very real and deep practice for her, because she got annoyed every single day with the squirrels. And she could make it an accessible point to see the demons as the conquerors, or the demons as the Buddha, and see in a way that she could take on that this is where I can see my anger arising. This is the moment I can liberate it. And when I do it over and over again, then I can approach the more painful aspects of my life with the same quality of a truth that I have seen on my cushion, that I am capable of liberating this emotion. So it had an authenticity that became like a Vajra armor. It's sort of a way of building up our capacity to deal with the much more difficult things that we carry, because we see we're capable of it. We see the impermanence of the anger. We see the state of our mind when that anger or rage is totally liberated, and that will allow us to go quite softly and gently into some of the more difficult things. So I'd like to do something a little different this morning in the contemplation. I'd like you to think of yourselves as Milarepa and coming back to the cave and seeing the demons and seeing sort of your response to the demons. Essentially personalize the story for you. And let's take this contemplation moment to see what is the part you can liberate with your practice experience that you have today, and what for you is putting your head into the mouth of the great demoness. Tell yourself the story and see yourself in all the parts of the story. So let's take a few minutes with this. And then taking another minute to identify who is your squirrel. If you were going to resolve to work on the most prominent emotion that's still an obstacle for you, what would that be in your daily life that triggers in a simple, accessible way your favorite afflictive emotion? So I'm going to open it to breakout rooms just to have a discussion more directly, because I know everybody can't speak, of how you see working with the monsters in your life in referencing Milarepa's story, or what is the squirrel character in your story that you can begin to start ongoing conversation about the teacher coming to you right in this moment. And as always, you don't have to join the breakout rooms. Good morning, Venerable. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. You know what? I'm going to close the Facebook. So let me say a dedication and close the Facebook. Bodhicitta, excellent and precious mind, where it is unborn, may it arise. Where it is born, may it not decline, but ever increase higher and higher. So have the fires stopped out where you are?
Yes.
Oh, thank goodness.
Yes, we've had 2 days of delicious rain. Everything's under control now. Most of them are either out or what they're calling contained or held.
Oh, good.
Yeah. And how about you? How's everything going on your end of the continent?
Okay, they are saying today is going to be the best weather of the year today.
Oh, wonderful. Oh, are you planning a walk or cuddling around in the garden?
I scheduled a walking meditation for today. So having a walking meditation. But I wanted to tell you, Ayasantachita's monastery in
yes, I was going to ask about them.
The fire came, they have like a field and
yes.
and a home, and then they have many acres. So the fire came right to the edge of their field. Essentially, it came to their doorstep. It burned a couple of small outbuildings, but not the main building, and not. And they think it was. They had a driveway and a parking area, so the fire trucks could
fire, like a fire break.
Yeah. Well, the field maybe was a fire break, and they had cleared everything from away from their house, but because they had a big parking area, the fire trucks could get to them.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. My connection is very unstable, so I've been trying to keep the video off so I can listen. Yeah, everything's great. Everything's great. You know what I was thinking about when you posed the question for the discussion? My biggest demon is the thinking that goes on.
Well,
You know, how you tend to, you start contemplating all these things and then your mind gets busy doing contemplation. And for me, that's the biggest demon, is to just put it down. Just put it down. What wisdom can arise if you give room for it.
yeah.
But if you start contemplating every tiny corner of a space, wisdom's got no way to get in.
Well,
And always, that's my biggest demon.
you know, how fortunate for you.
Well, you don't know what's going on in the squirrel cage.
Well, you may have
I
fewer
guess maybe it's fortunate from the outside.
in your psyche. But when I was telling the story, I wrote down some excerpts, but unfortunately I had multiple documents open and I put them in a document that I couldn't find. But this is what the 84,000 said to him at the first stage. Here in the last watch of the night, you must pass over to the other side, essentially because they were all various demons saying they were going to kill him. All of the actions you've done previously, do you have regret for them now or not? Yama's messenger will take you away. Are you prepared to die happily or not? Do you have confidence that's free of fear towards the great abyss of the three lower realms or not? These are our questions for you.
Mm-hmm.
I just found that to be so beautiful, on the spot.
Isn't it?
Yeah. Do you have confidence free from fear? And do you have confidence free from regret? I read that regret in a different way. Of course, we regret things, but perhaps as Westerners, we carry the regret as guilt, as a thought form.
Yeah. We're certainly brought up on that, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And any of us who had a Jewish mama definitely learned it right at the source. Right at the source. In the mother's milk, you will feel guilty. Like it's that old joke, the son gets his mother two beautiful blouses, or the mother gets the son two beautiful shirts for Christmas. And so for the Christmas or Passover or whatever, gets this beautiful shirt, puts one on and wears it to the dinner that night. And she says, so the other one you didn't like? Because there's no way you're going to win this one, buddy. There's no way. And it's interesting. I mean, when you think about what are your primary fears, or what are your primary regrets / guilts? And maybe it's because I'm really old. I don't know. Because I certainly had many regrets, things that I know in hindsight, and even at the time, were tremendously unskillful. But I've also learned that you do the best you can where you are with what you've got. And so there's no point feeling regret, absolutely, but guilty. Why? Because you know darn well you'd have done better if you could. If you knew better, you'd have done better, because your heart is good, your intentions are good, and your spirit is generally a kind of a loving, joyful one. So, really, I think most people, if we look at what we've done that wasn't skillful, unless you've killed somebody and done some really atrocious junk, you can honestly and fairly say, certainly I would have been more skillful if I'd had more skill.
I think it's still a hard lesson for most Westerners to take in.
Oh yeah, it's not easy. Nobody ever said that The Buddha Dharma was easy. Nobody ever said this path has no bumps, no potholes, no stones, off you go. But it's the bumps and stones and the difficulties that make it work. It's like the demons.
Yeah, truly. And then when I think of Milarepa in this case, getting to the point of no separation with his demon and seeing
just absolute surrender. What can harm you? What are you afraid of? Most people are afraid of death. Well, why? Why? It depends, I guess, on how you see death, doesn't it?
I think, you know, the thing that's interesting to me is to see all along it was just the play of our mind, and if our wisdom mind would see it,
absolutely,
they would see it was never anything but wisdom appearing to our confused senses as something to be afraid.
Yeah, because that's where the learning happens.
Yeah.
You know, we don't learn much if everything's going smoothly and we're not challenged by anything. Most of us are lazy little slugs, and we'll just sort of lie back and go, oh, I like it. Oh, I like it. But when the grit hits, that's when we get to learn. And I always think that's the really juicy part. That's where it gets interesting. I love puzzles. I love all kinds of puzzles. And for me, that becomes the ultimate puzzle. What's really going on? What's really true? I gotta track this one down and figure it out. I gotta make room for wisdom to come in and help me here.
That's the beauty of the path. Okay, I'm going to close the breakout rooms and
Thank you. I really enjoy spending time with you. I like sharing ideas with somebody that I know is like wise and understands what I'm saying. Thank you.
I do as well. Okay, the rooms are still in the process of coming back. It takes
that was a juicy one.
a full minute. I'm looking forward to hearing about everybody's squirrels. It must be a good conversation because only 3 people have come back. Everybody is still talking. Now we have more. Okay, so I want to hear about your squirrels.
Did you stop the Facebook?
I did. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for reminding me. Yes, I did.
I was saying that I've already conquered the squirrels. That was one that I've checked off my list to embrace them.
And what about the concept of putting your head into the mouth of the worst fear?
That's probably the best way to go, head on.
Yes.
Right. I'm learning from you. Thank you.
Other folks, what are your reflections of this favorite Milarepa story?
In my case, Khenmo, I have literal squirrels and literal mice. I've discussed some of that before. Bowing down, I find difficult. I don't know if I'm supposed to put my head in the mouth of a mouse. But the idea of bowing down, period, I find a resistance to it. I was giving an example of a minor one. Besides, there's millions of them. But in the store, I wasn't going fast enough, and some guy got pissed off behind me, and I turned around and apologized, and he was like ice cold. And I knew that, and immediately I got pissed. So anger obviously is my go-to when things don't go the way I want it to go. And the idea of bowing down, I like the idea intellectually, but actually being grateful for these impediments, whatever they are, large and small, not quite there. Not quite at Milarepa's level. Although I guess if I can be more aware of the suffering that I am feeling and that I'm projecting into the world, sometimes I am, I at least then feel bad. I don't know that I'm grateful and bowing down and, to the point where I'm willing to put my head into, the storm. I don't even know what that would be like, putting my head into my own anger and rage. But I do know I don't like it, and I don't like how it feels, and I don't want to hurt others. So I'm open to the concept.
Good, good. This is why I like coming back to this story over and over again, because that idea of what does it take to let go of our most difficult narratives and see the Buddha nature of the mouse, of the difficult man in line, of whatever wound we have, is a wonderful journey to take, because it frees us from this. And I forget sometimes that bowing down is so Asian, and that I think, as a Western person, the first commandment is something like, thou shalt not bow down. So if you want to say grateful instead of bowing down, I'll try and remind myself to do that, so that.
No, I like the bowing down idea. I think that act of humility is, I really am attracted to it. I guess what I'm trying to say is my resistance, my own ego is still very hardened in many respects. I like the concept. I've done it before in extreme conditions, but in a little way, on a daily level, I am not there. I would like to be, though.
All right, what did other people find out? Who or what is your squirrel? Or what other reflections do you have in the context of this story?
Well, I always seem to have someone in my life. It's gotten a lot less over time, but I always have someone in my life who's like a nemesis. And that person, as I have worked with that over the years, that person triggers feelings inside of me when I mean, like, I get caught up in a narrative of they're wrong and I'm right. But when I dig into that and look closely at it, it has to do with the small part of myself that still feels unworthy, unlovable, bad. So that to stick my head into the mouth of that feeling is very painful. So I have been able to do it from time to time. And when I've done it, usually that person exits my life just gracefully. But then after a while, then someone else will pop up, and I'm keeping working with it for the time being.
I think that is a very universal description. And I think, when we have the insight to be able to see why does this story come up over and over again, and that it's connected with that kind of a feeling, then part of the release from that and part of the release of the connection is to begin to trust in the Buddha nature. And if we can trust in our own Buddha nature that we connect to in bodhicitta practice and approach it from that perspective of this is true nature, but it's also the other person's true nature. You know, part of it is seeing that it's connected to this feeling and using the same insight and wisdom to see that the truth is Buddha nature, not unlovable quality. So it's all of these wonderful factors going together. But you know, when Milarepa has confidence in his fearlessness, the fearlessness is the confidence in Buddha nature, and that that Buddha nature is what makes the essence of both himself and the nemesis inseparable in the absolute aspect.
And I think that I've spent a lot of time thinking, well, you know, I should be able to forgive and forget about, you know, all these injustices that have been played upon me. And but if, like I could spend time, you know, understanding how that person is and how it is for that person, but what I'm increasingly being called upon is more like what you're saying, is to turn more towards my own Buddha nature rather than towards all the parts of me that aren't there yet. So,
you know, I think the interesting thing about the narratives that we carry, the more we get involved in the story, which is, of course, how I'm right, and all the different factors that led to that person being wrong. It's still perpetuating samsara because it's perpetuating self and other. And the teaching that the demons were giving Milarepa was letting go of perceiver and perceived. You know, so sitting in the Buddha nature as the gateway to the bigger field of the absolute, where our Buddha nature, their Buddha nature.
Lindsay. Oh, wait.
So I see that it's time to do the dedication. And I want to remember before we do the dedication that today is supposed to have the best weather of the year in Maine. And we're having walking meditation. And I'm just going to put the address in the chat room because turns out there are two Goranson farms. One is in Dresden and one is in Scarborough. And the walking meditation is the one in Scarborough today. So I invite you, if you're free, to join in walking meditation. And we'll take pictures for the folks who can't be with us. So we're still going to work with this particular story and the final line of all sufferings are Dharmata's waves. So we haven't finished yet with this poem from Khenchen. And it is on the website as well. By this virtue, may I achieve omniscience, and may all who travel on the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death cross the ocean of samsara by defeating all enemies, confusion, the cause of suffering. Bodhicitta, the excellent and precious mind, where it is unborn, may it arise, where it is born, may it not decline, but ever increase higher and higher. I pray that the Lama may have good health. I pray that the Lama may have long life. I pray that your Dharma activities spread far and wide. I pray that I may not be separated from you. For this realm encircled by snow-covered mountains, you are the source of every benefit and bliss without exception. Tenzin Gyatso, you who are one with Avalokiteshvara, may you remain steadfast until samsara's end. Embodiment of the three precious jewels, Padma Pani, who holds the teachings of the victorious one, seeing the all-goodness meaning with the wisdom eye, may you who are spontaneously established activities live long for hundreds of kalpas. Noble Manjushri, the Lord of Speech, who manifests to hold the teachings of the triple gem, who raises the lamp of the sage's teachings, may you who are the light of the Dharma live long for hundreds of kalpas. The one known in the Holy Land is Aryadeva, emanated into the Gar clan of Eastern Tibet as Chodingpa, the heart son of Jigten Sumgun. May the life of glorious Gyaltshen remain steadfast for 100 eons. So these stories we come back to over and over again because they have so much to teach us. And I love, not only do I love this Milarepa story, I have returned to it over and over again in my exploration of what I carry, to what is that fearlessness and confidence, and what is that letting go of this right and wrong, you know, to just let go into the spaciousness of Buddha nature. So they're like Zen koans. We keep going back to them and learning more over and over again until they help us become totally released. But I loved in the longer story how much the monsters participated. And then in the very end, they apologized to him and said, please give us bodhisattva vows. So we're still working up to the bodhisattva vows. So have a lovely day. I hope weather where you are is like it is in Maine today. We earn this with our winters. So take care. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Khenmo.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Tina.
Thank you. I will work with you. I will walk with you in my neighborhood.
Oh, good. Wonderful. Thanks.